So Mars at 14, this would be Mars at 14 in Aquarius, which means you got Mars now starting to square Uranus. Okay? Mars starting to square Uranus. And we also have Mercury at 17 in Pisces. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 everybody. This is G. How is everybody doing? We are in February, and we are nearing the end of it, believe it or not. February 26th. This is the week of February 26th. I will say right off the bat that the entire month of February has been, we think, learning, because Gemini, right? Learning. I realize when I edit my videos, I'm looking through them, I'm editing, I'm adding in some words. And I know one of the most recent videos that I had just put up, I don't know what the hell. Yeah, it was the Mercury stuff in the Virgo. Yeah, Virgo full moon, I think it was, or something. And oh my gosh, the amount of details in that video, holy crap, right? Was a really good example of Virgo gone wild. Because we're in Aquarius season, but yet at the same time, a full moon in Virgo. And so it was just like fast details and abundance of details. And oh my God, by the time I got done watching the video, I was like, holy shit, that was a little much. Putting all that aside, the mind being very busy, being very active, doing somersaults, cartwheels, gymnastics, right? Backflips, front, like whatever. It's on the high rings. It's on the freaking vault. I mean, we got the mind doing all sorts of stuff and really hungry and learning, but also because anytime we talk about Aquarius energy, think about this. It's the neurons, right? The nerves, the neural pathways. It is the information highway, the mind and the neurons. So literally having Mars there, which we do, having Venus there, which we do, Mercury is now already in Pisces, right? But at the time, like when we began February, Mercury niching through, carving out new neural pathways in the brain. So we are actually being helped because we are open to new and open to exciting. We're like hungry to learn and to do something we haven't done before. So this is a benefit. The 26th, the week of the 26th, we still got Venus and Mars together, working together, but they're starting to separate a little bit. Venus is literally pulling off of Mars. So what may happen, because Venus tends to be able to bring in a little bit of the peace, even though she still wants new and exciting and different. She's still hungry for that in Aquarius. But when she was conjunct Mars, there was like the ability where Venus and Mars were speaking the same language. They were working together even, right? And so it could help temper some of the Mars's ability to just kind of fly off the handle. Venus typically wants peace, right? Venus is typically there to be like, okay, yeah, I'm here for this battle. I'm down for it. I'm your partner, Mars. But at the same time, I'm going to use words. I'm going to see if I can use a little bit of honey to get what we want instead of you using the weapons or you using your harsh words. So when Venus pulls off of Mars, what happens then is we may experience a little bit more of, we may see a little bit more of the Mars qualities come out, right? And so that happens right at the beginning of the week. Venus is starting to pull away from Mars. So there's a little bit of distance between them. So Mars, we may see Mars being a little bit more harsh, right? Not so, not domestic. That's not the word, diplomatic. Not so diplomatic, because Venus and Mars together, and Venus rules Libra energy, the other air sign, right? The three air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. All of a sudden, Venus pulling away, there's still that beautiful trine happening, right? But it's just that Mars doesn't have Venus right there as its coach. There's a difference. When the coach goes away, then you're on your own. It's like, okay, I got to prove, right, what I've learned or the new traits that I've picked up on. So they pull away, and Mars now might be a little bit more on the harsh side. There's still strong releases happening, right? I mentioned it in the last video. There may be some letting go, some releases. This is the law. This is Libra energy because we got the South Node there, right? So there's like, this is the lawyer energy. It is diplomacy, so it's beneficial because it's trine, but there's also communications. There's also history. What happened in the past? What did lawyers do in the past? What were some lawyers in particular doing? Now, this can be people in Congress, because a lot of those Congress members, a lot of those representatives, a lot of those people literally have law degrees. Okay. And so we might find that it could be people also who literally in the courtrooms practicing law, literally, right? We hear about it in the news. If you're in the States, don't got to say anything much else about that. You know what I'm talking about? There's just a lot of people, a lot of courtroom stuff, like more than usual, right? For 2023, 2024, like it's just the year of the legal sagas. So Pluto's the backstory, because Pluto's still in Aquarius and will be here. Now, to give everybody a little bit of a heads up, Pluto's going to be moving. It's already at the 1 degrees. It's at 1 degrees and 7 minutes right here at the front of this week, February 26th. And so at this 1 degree point, I mentioned in the last video, the very first time we've ever been here. So what's going to happen? We are having conversations. Here's a really good example. Recently, somebody's mentioned something about Elmo, a conversation about Elmo, right? And Elmo kicked it off. I guess, on X, and said something, just asked a question. Hey, how's everybody doing? Or something like that, to that effect. And I wouldn't have known about this because I'm not on socials other than YouTube. I'm just posting my videos. That's it, right? So I had no idea, but Bo of the Fifth Column mentioned it, and I'm sure a whole buttload of other people did too. But Bo just basically explained that it was Elmo asking, hey, how's everybody doing? And people responded, and who knew, right? But the thing was, it was the emotional check-in, our emotional well-being type of check-in. And in Aquarius, that's group energy. And so that's social platforms. And there was Elmo asking just a really like, hello, how are you question. It's been a while. Just thought I'd say hi. And like a ton of responses, apparently, right? And people varied responses, and some showing us maybe truth, some maybe showing us the ugly truth, some maybe just having fun with it, right? But Pluto, that's what Pluto does. It shows you stuff. It shows you stuff that's buried. It shows you stuff that we're not talking about, stuff that's not on the table, stuff that's been buried, and stuff that we forgot was even there because we couldn't deal with it, or we were tired of dealing with it, or it was something that wasn't okay to talk about, right? Whatever the thing is, it was been pushed to the back and pushed and buried and just uncovered. Now, Pluto and Aquarius, an uncovering, a revealing even. And so we think of the group energy, we think of the online energy, we think of my friends, and we think of the communications that we do online, or just the groups that we're associated with. And because I'm not on X, I wasn't associated with that conversation. I didn't see how it kicked off. I didn't see, like, okay, Elmo asked the question, but who was the first to respond? Or did a whole bunch of people respond all at once? Or was it just like a trickled in slowly? Like, how did it actually happen? And did it really get kicked off because of the like one of those first responses that came across with like a real heartfelt response, which would be Pluto? You're gonna ask me a question, I'm gonna give you the truth. And so this all kind of kicked off around the same time, not the same time, but Cat Williams kind of breaking the internet, right? If anybody's familiar with Cat Williams. And why am I bringing this up? Well, the opposite of Pluto is Leo. So comedians. Leo is comedians, right? But someone who's kind of like putting it out there, who's spilling some tea, as they call it, or whatever. Now, it's all Hollywood, so take it with a grain of salt. And I'm not for or against Cat Williams. I do think he's a brilliant comedian, by the way. But at the same time, everybody's, he seems very sincere. I'll just say it like that. But truth, we think of truth telling, truth sharing, right? Because it's in this big platform, social media, big platform, group energy. So this kind of is the backstory to everything because that will flavor what all the other planets are experiencing, especially those that are in Aquarius, Mars and Venus in Aquarius. Okay. So a lot of action being taken. And so people aren't just thinking about things, but they're like, I got something to say and I'm going to share it. Right. And I'm sharing it either this way or I'm vlogging about it or I'm being interviewed, but on a social platform. Okay. And so YouTube kind of can be a big deal because I'm not even sure how the Cat Williams thing came about, but like I shouldn't just say YouTube. I apologize. It's the only place that I'm at. I don't have Netflix, but I know Netflix is a streaming. So I'll just use the word streaming. So wherever you stream, however you stream, I know Prime does streaming now and has like their own shows, and so does Netflix. So, I would imagine Disney as well does. And you tell me in the comments, what are some other platforms or some other streaming services that have those sort of conversations or interviews? Or I think HBO, like well, I don't know if that's considered cable or streaming. I don't know, folks, but you let me know. Streaming, Aquarius energy. Okay. So Pluto being there and some of the things coming out that might feel or seem a little bit raw. I've used the word raw with Pluto many times because to me, raw is, there's this wound and it's fresh, it's raw. And how does a wound look? First of all, there's pain involved, right? There's usually blood involved. So it's might not be so appealing. It might be even frightening for some people, but it is what it is, right? So Venus pulling off of Mars kind of gives us that more reveal of rawness. Now, I want to show you the chart, but I wanted to just give you that backstory of the air energy, Okay, so learning, Gemini and Mercury, right? And then we think of Venus in Libra energy, air sign, Libra, right? So we think of that and we're just like, okay, so there's that open line of communication. Remember, Mercury rules Gemini, Venus rules Libra. The siblings are always having a conversation. And they're either always talking or they might be feuding, right? Because the Mercury in Virgo squares the Mercury in Gemini. And I apologize if it feels like I'm just taking way too deep of a dive and throwing in way too many details. But you can always stop the video, digest the information, come back to it, or rewind the video, right? Or come back and watch it multiple times and grab the little nuggets for you to digest in ways that are easier for you to digest. Aquarius energy, remember, it's fixed, but it squares all that Taurus stuff. So it's our values. But think of our resources, our shared resources, our natural resources, because we got Scorpio at the other end of Taurus. And yeah, that's a T square. That's a T square, right? Leo then makes it a great cross because it's fixed fire, right? We go to Aquarius. What rules Aquarius? We're talking Uranus or Uranus or Uranus, and we're talking Saturn. Yeah, it's got a co-rulership there, right? So that kind of talking and communication going on, it screams new. It screams learning. It screams compatibility, but compatibility that is required to have like the diplomacy. And I have to be able to compromise and talk and figure out my needs first and what it is that's important to me. Because if I don't know what it is that's important to me, I can't share, hey, this is what's important to me. And so if you can't share what's important to you and what like is a deal breaker for you, then the compromise can't be had. And many times we might get fixated on things that are outdated and old. And when that happens in the moment, we don't know what's currently important to us. We don't know what's of a current value. And fair enough, because we're in a flux, we're changing all of that. You see? So it's like we kind of got to go a little bit at a time, one step at a time, and go down back to the basics. Go to your Taurus energy, go back to the basics. What do you need? Right? What do you need for your emotional security, for your physical security? You need safety, right? You need safety. And how do we get that, right? We got to have food, we got to have shelter, we got to be healthy, right? So the food, the shelter, like those things, clothing, we got to be in a safe environment around safe people who aren't trying to harm me. Sometimes you just got to check in with yourself and go back to the bare minimum, go back to the bare basics and make sure those are being taken care of. Okay. Make sure those are being met and you can check that checklist off. Okay. So there are people and places and things that either help us to achieve those securities and those basic needs, right? Or they hurt them or they take away from our basic needs. And so that's this conversation. That's the conversation because all the stuff in Aquarius is squaring my values and our shared values. And so we are really having to reprioritize and reevaluate. And this conversation I'm having, this running theme has been going on because Uranus is in Taurus. And so our basic needs, our creature comforts, our values, our shared values have been questioned, have been challenged. And we're being asked, what can you hold on to, yet what can you also release? What do you know for certain is outdated and must go to the wayside? While still holding on to some of those ancient ways while still embracing the new. And that is why we are in this conundrum because we're in this I got one leg in one world and the other leg in the other. And it's like, am I being torn apart? Right? And so it can be complicated to our values, right? Yeah, because Jupiter is in Taurus and Taurus is our values. Okay? So Mars was squaring Jupiter. All right. And how does that look? Well, when we go big, let me not get too loud. I can already feel my voice just like ready to pour the hell out. You see how Mars is at 10 there? Yeah, Mars is sitting right there at 10 degrees. And I'm actually just going to go green because my chart is from when I did my homework. Anyway, so 10 degrees Mars, Venus pulling off, which is why I was saying, right, there might be a little bit of a shock. And I say shock, not just because it's Mars, but because it's Mars in Aquarius. Okay. And so if I go and run down over here to Jupiter, you see Jupiter's at 10, right? 1047 in Taurus. Okay. So Venus pulls off now and we just might feel that. Okay. So you already know all this. You already know this. I already talked about it. Our challenges to our values. It's Taurus, so it can be food. We think of possibly supply chain for sure, supply chain. In whatever way that may look. That can be railroad, that can be boats, that can be semis, it can be convoys, right? We think of convoys, right? So it can be the trucking industry. We think of airlines because that's a big part. Like Amazon, I know has really, and I know UPS has planes as well. But I know there's a lot of where, hey, like the shipping thing might not work. So during the pandemic and prices escalating through businesses because of the fact that to get the products to, it was like, okay, this is going to have to be on an airplane instead of on a ship, right? And so that escalates prices. Now, am I saying there will be a price increase? It's a possibility. Like just when we thought, we were going to start seeing prices lower, maybe prices going higher, because anytime you have the supply chain stuff squaring the values, Yeah, squaring banking too, and international banking, of course, because you got Jupiter, and then this being global banking and global finance. But likely, we'll see how that works out exactly, without me going any further into this because I'm not a banker and yeah, I don't own any corporations. So, um, yeah, we're just gonna see what happens. Okay. But maybe stress and tension in that area. Okay. So we go back over to the dates here and we go to, um, well, before we get to the 29th, we're going to go to the Mercury and the Sun and Saturn being combust, which means they're all going to be, in that degree where they're together and where it's like, oh, snap. What does that mean? Well, when Mercury gets close to the Sun, you can you can feel like as though your mind might not be working as beautifully as it once was, and this was already occurring because whenever you have Mercury in Pisces, that's a thing. You're already going to experience your mind in water. So Pisces is confusion. It is cloudy. It is murky. This is when Mercury becomes Mercury, right? Like Mercury becomes murky, right? The murky waters. So confusion, and then things about people who are in politics and musicians and performers and actors and actresses. Sound is a big deal. You might be listening to more music. You might want to hear more music. You might be making music. You might start singing. You might be writing music and poetry and theater and drama. You might hear more communications that are a little bit more on the sappy side because that's Pisces energy. They can lay it on thick, right? They're the performers, right? This is the silver screen, Pisces energy. But it's also nature, the sounds of nature. Sounds of nature. Now, the combustion stuff doesn't last long, not long at all. So let's go find Pisces energy real quick. And there it is. You see? So the week started off with Mercury at 6, the Sun at 7, and Saturn at 9. So that means that we're looking at February 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and we're talking the Sun and Mercury and Saturn in this combust time. And that's why we've got the red there. Okay, I'll outline it in the green. So, information and communication, a little wonky. You could have issues with the internet, you could have issues with your devices. I'm trying to give myself a heads up. You could have communications with the snail mail, with the regular mail, communications from somebody in charge, because that's the sun. There might be things about rules because that's the sun and Saturn. Things that we're building for the long term. Saturn, right? Absolutely. When we think of Pisces, Saturn and Pisces, we think of possibly someone who's a public figure, a public figure. And we also think of overseas. We can't forget Jupiter. Other than Neptune being the ruler, Jupiter is also the ruler of Pisces energy. And that's really important to always keep that in mind, are those ancient rulers. Because if we forget about those ancient rulers, that is always kind of where we feel blindsided because we didn't bother to consider the ancient ruler as well. So this is foreigners, foreign lands, immigration, emigration, what's going on over there in that country. And so these can be public figures in other countries. Yeah. So wherever you live, public figures in other countries. Foreign affairs. Go to your websites or listen to your favorite public. I shouldn't say favorite public figure. Don't do that. Listen to go in if you want. If you don't understand foreign affairs, which is a huge thing, just find somebody who is information and fact based in delivering the information. They're not going to be so much based in picking sides and division, but delivering the information. When you've found somebody who really feels like they lean more towards one way or the other, uh, just remember, delusional. And I only say delusional and conspiracy theories because we're talking Pisces, and because if we are only listening to somebody who is only feeding us information that aligns perfectly with our beliefs, it is comfortable. But we are also then neglecting the whole story. We're neglecting the 360 degrees. Okay. And so Pisces energy with Mercury there, the way we think, yeah, it can be a little delusional. It will definitely be prone to fantasy and make believe in sci-fi. It will be prone to conspiracy theories. That is just the way it is, folks. This isn't me making up these keywords for Pisces energy, but those are keywords for Pisces energy. Illusions and delusions, the Wizard of Oz, right? Some like to say, oh, but the Wizard of Oz, that means it's the person that was behind the curtain. Sure. But what about those watching the movie? What about us watching the movie and believing the movie that we're watching, right? Believing the words that are being performed in front of us, believing the performance itself, believing the performers. So all that is to just say, just be cautious, especially if you're being asked to, I don't know, make decisions or sign any dotted lines or any decisions that are important. Consult somebody who's a little bit more level headed. We want to really embrace thinking and rationale and logic and practicality. The opposite of Pisces. The opposite of Pisces is Virgo. So when you have a lot of energy in Pisces, we're going to be thinking more on the fantastical side, more dreamy and idealistic side, right? Virgo's where we find the practicality, the exact opposite. And lo and behold, Virgo energy is a big story for this week as well. And I'm going to get to that. So we got Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith is going to be trining Pluto this week. Yes. At the end of this week, Black Moon Lilith will enter Libra energy. Black Moon Lilith moves fast. So that's not like some long-term thing, but it's just to give everybody a heads up, right? Black Moon Lilith is about the past because it's the moon. So is Pluto. It's about the past because it's Pluto. Pluto's about the power. The power. Okay. Black Moon's going to be in Libra. Law, lawyers, partnerships, businesses. Think of the courtroom. Think of the scales of justice. Okay. We get to the 29th, and Mercury is at 12 degrees. 12 degrees already in Pisces. She's pulled away from Saturn and she's pulled away from the sun. And let's look and see what else is at 12 in this chart. Do we have anything at 12 in water? We have Mercury starting to trine Sirius, Sirius. This is like this mother goddess energy, very strong energy. It's in Cancer, so that's the moon, so that's feminine energy. It's women, it's home, it's family, it's literally the sticks and the bricks. All right. So something to come through, maybe some information and news about the housing market, possibly because we're talking Mercury in the news. Plus, Mercury is about the markets, it's finances, it's also the stock market. And yeah, we think of real estate when we think of our local community, right? We think of housing for sure. It's just a quick trine, though, just a quick one. Mercury moves pretty fast, but it is here and it is prevalent because we also have a couple of things in Scorpio at 13. These are some Arabic lots, but it's shared values because it's Scorpio energy, right? And we know just from Taurus's chart, we know from all the energy that's down there in Taurus, we know Jupiter sitting there around 10. We also know we got Uranus sitting in Taurus at like 19. So this is like in between all of that, right? There's a Scorpio fixed trine going on with Mercury and with Sirius. Okay. So this is more mother energy. Without giving you the details on these, this is a part of Arabic lot on mother and on children at 13 degrees. They're exact degrees. So the interesting thing about that for me is I'll have to do more work myself to see if they're actually just called something different because they're like identical. These two are moving identically the same. And I don't know if they always travel together. Usually the lots are based on multiple things in a chart. So I just went by the software. I don't draw up Arabic lots by hand, so I don't know enough about that to be honest with you, and I don't want to be misleading. So for right now, these are identically together, which is really interesting because we think what could be more about family when you think of a mother and a child, right? And that's what these part of lots are. So let's back off the big picture a little bit, and let's see if we can already see a square to that Mercury. Chericlo, a witness. It's about foreigners, foreign lands, foreign countries, foreign languages. It's also about the judicial system because we have Chericlo there. These two, Sappho and Pallas Athena, stay in Saggy for quite a while. So there's a lot of focus again on foreigners, foreign lands, immigration, and housing. We know that's a huge, huge thing, right? It's huge. The lack of housing for folks who are not immigrants is a huge thing. So then when you all of a sudden have that coupled, compounded with folks coming in from somewhere else who need housing, it's like, holy crap, right? So it's like this, folks. The housing thing in the States, especially, I can't speak for other places because I don't live there. And so you tell me, watching from where you're at in the country you live in, fill me in on, give me some of the knowledge and the history of where you're at. But for us here, there is a shortage of affordable housing. Like, I've got housemates. Why do you think I got housemates? Why do you think they have a housemate? Right? Because it's difficult to be able to live in the times that we live in, working as hard as we do, 2, 3 jobs. My one housemate's got 3 jobs. The other housemate's got 2 jobs. You got to make ends meet, right? And nobody's living large and driving, no one's got owns 3 cars. There's no extreme living going on where it's like, wow, you guys spend way more than you make. It's just, this is just to live and to make sure all of our needs, our basic needs are covered, right? Not to mention healthcare. That's a huge factor. So all of this is to say that it's like we're at that precipice, where like there's this big gap, and we're at this point where we need one more little thing on that scale to really tip it. Well, think about this. We're already at that point. And then the influx of people coming to the country, like our ancestors did, right? Coming to this country and looking for a better life, looking for safety. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, we already don't have enough homes. So what's going to happen? It's as though this energy will help expedite Congress, for the government to do something, possibly even an executive order because of the housing crisis. Something may be created to, I don't know. It almost makes me wonder. And again, this isn't like I'm hearing this, so I just want to be clear on that. This is my brain thinking. It almost makes me wonder. So maybe this is some Aquarius stuff. It almost makes me wonder if the government will literally go ahead and just start, like, say, hey, we're going to start creating literally government-backed housing, not just, hey, we're going to go ahead and find contractors, but the government, they themselves might say, hey, we're going to go ahead and start these programs where we're educating folks to build, where we're, likely it'll be a combination. I have to be realistic. Likely be a combination of people where just a whole lot of money being thrown towards housing. How about that? Instead of me going any longer, is here at 14. And so that squares that trine that I had just pointed out, that big trine energy with Mercury and Sirius and these guys. You see that? Yep. All right. So then the next day, the 29th, let's get there already. Oh, I'm sorry. The same day, the 29th, we've got Black Moon Lilith also at 29 degrees. You see that? That's what I talked about, right? So Black Moon Lilith at 29 will trine Sedna. It's really short and it's really quick. And where's Sedna? In Taurus. You see? So there's a lot of earth energy, okay? A lot of earth energy getting triggered. And that's Virgo. So we think of the details in Virgo. We think of communication. We think of those important things like clean housing, just a clean environment, because domestic energy. So I say housing, right? But domestic energy in terms of laundry, in terms of a garden, in terms of cleaning and housekeeping and fresh water and food. right? Clothing, right? The seamstress, Virgo energy for sure. So there's a trine, a quick trine. Very powerful though. Black Moon Lilith with Sedna and Taurus. These are the difficulties and the pains whenever we talk about Sedna and Taurus. It's strong feminine energy. Again, both of these very strong feminine energy, the wounds, stuff from the past, tragic stuff and the vulnerabilities highlighted here, right? Sedna's then going to move and go to that 1 degree and be part of the trine of Pluto. A lot of stuff with women in the past, folks. A lot of stuff with women in the past. Black Moon Lilith is going to be here, sitting here at 1. All right. March 1st, Venus squaring Uranus. So that would put Venus at 19 degrees in Aquarius, squaring Uranus in Taurus, a fixed sign. New money. Venus, Uranus is new. A challenge to the global financial systems, possibly. But not just the global financial systems, but supply chain, possibly. We think food whenever we look at Venus, because Venus rules Taurus, right? We think food, but we think businesses when we think of Venus as well, because Venus is in Libra, right? And we think of those business partnerships, and we think of the supply chain. It's Uranus, inventions, so shipping and airplanes and railroads. We think mass transportation, but it can be digital. We think of Ethereum. We think of Bitcoin. We think of the cryptocurrencies, right? So there's a whole lot of different ways this can look. What about the Venus in this chart? Let's go to Aquarius real quick. Yep, she'll be sitting over there, sitting pretty at 19 degrees. All right. At that 19 degrees, we look to Libra energy, right? Right before Venus would have been trining what? The South Node, right? We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about Mercury, but Venus also trining. So that release, right? We saw Venus and Mars sitting there at 10. That release, I talked about it right at the beginning of the video. But after that release, then she's squaring Uranus. You see that? Yep, there it is on paper, squaring Uranus. So new and different. This is authority figures, folks. It's also authority figures and someone in charge. So this can be like Jerome Powell setting the interest rates, keeping interest rates the same. I guess it was the last thing I heard. But something that is different and new. So there could be some new legislation, because anytime we see Libra energy and a lot of Sagittarius energy, we have to think legislation. We have to think also the judicial branch of government and things moving and happening. Okay. So the first of the month, that would be March 1st, folks. We also have Mars drawn up here. We have Mars at 14 degrees. I have Mars at 14. I have Mercury at 17. Okay. So Mars at 14, this would be Mars at 14 in Aquarius, which means you got Mars now starting to square Uranus. Okay. Mars starting to square Uranus. And we also have Mercury at 17 in Pisces. Right. So what does that mean? Let's take a look. So I'm just going to draw Mars in over here. I'll just go green and go real big. We got Mars sitting here, 17 degrees, 14 degrees. I'm sorry. So Mars at 14, I think I drew it in at 14 because it's powerful and it's conjunct Cheroklo, the wounds of our bodies, or somebody who witnesses others in wounds. Mars conjunct Cheroklo, yikes, but it is squaring our shared values, okay? Squaring the earth, squaring the natural resources, squaring banking, okay? And squaring Uranus, somebody in charge, okay? And then Mercury, I said, is here too. So we're going to do Mercury at 17, because that's where Mercury was, 17 degrees over here. Mercury happens to be at 17 in Pisces, conjunct Nessa. Let me move this over to the side so you can see it. You see Nessa there at 17 and Hygeia at 19. So think of 17 degrees, but think of Pisces energy. Think of Jupiter, somebody overseas, a public figure possibly overseas. Think of justices, the Supreme Court. Think of immigration. Think of, we think of Pisces, right? We think of Neptune. We think of somebody in charge. We think of public figures. We think of musicians. We think of actors and actresses. We think of somebody who may have a lot of sway and has a platform where they're able to influence people, right? And news, because Mercury is going to be conjunct Nessa. And Nessa tends to be that centaur who's there to seek revenge. So there might be, I don't know, some crosswords. There might be somebody in the news where we're hearing some information about something they said that was not real nice, or maybe something that happens that's might be perceived as negative. All right, because it's Nessa. Nessa typically seeks out revenge. That's just Nessa's style. So with Jupiter here, and we think of foreigners, foreign lands, foreign language, foreign countries, but remember public figures, those who have the spotlight, those who have a platform, those who could possibly even be in charge of a country, but people who do a lot of this. All right, it can be not just one, but all of the above, folks. All of the above. Okay, I got Taffy in the room, which says what? Well, it might be time for me to stop. She's like, you've been talking for too long, G. Yeah. So all of this is a sextile to Taurus energy. When we look at Pisces energy, it sextiles Taurus energy. Okay. So it's sextiling the Uranus stuff. Again, when it sextiles Uranus, it's sextiling somebody in charge, but it's Taurus. So it's banking, it's money, it's our values, it's our creature comforts. Yeah, it's our creature comforts. Okay. An authority figure comes up again. So it's a little bit more serious because it's not just, here's the thing. A lot of folks who have a political platform, or maybe that's the wrong word. How about this? We've got people who are in politics who seem to be really, really concerned about their social platforms. And instead of actually politicking, which is learning how to compromise and have conversations about their constituents' real issues, it's as though they're more consumed with how many likes they got, how many thumbs up they get, how many views their stuff got, right? And that can be Pisces energy, big time. But Uranus is not really like that. Uranus in Taurus especially is going to be more of, I'm an authority figure here. You see, it's not about I'm doing this for the clicks. That's not Uranus energy. So when I see this connection between Uranus and Mercury and Pisces energy, it says to me there's somebody here that is of power, someone who actually can control regulation, someone who has a say in something that is something that we can measure. It's substantial. It's not just about the clicks. It's about actual things that will affect our everyday lives, right? So Taurus, again, go through all the Taurus keywords: money, financing, banking, interest rates, right? The stock market, cryptocurrency, that kind of stuff. The last thing we're going to talk about is what happens when we get to the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th. If you look closely at the dates I have here, March 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I already talked about that, the Black Moon Lilith trining Pluto, but here we have Jupiter in a trine with Juno, Earth energy. So even though there's a lot of that disruption going on behind the scenes, you got Jupiter trining. These two are not super fast movers, okay? Jupiter's just sitting here at 10, but Juno is retrograding. Juno in Virgo, the minutia, the details, very strong, practical, tangible energy. So even though it feels like, or we hear about a lot of crazy stuff and a lot of things changing, there's this backstory going on. This is stabilizing energy, strong, stabilizing energy. Juno is the wife of Jupiter, feminine. It's in Virgo, the details, the minutia, things that are important, the work, the job, the projects, nursing, healthcare, things that we need to survive, people, right? Things that we need to survive. Mercury is the news, but it's also learning. Mercury is in a sextile. That's what that little fake star. Mercury's in a nice, beautiful sextile at the same time that this is going on. So we think of learning something new, right? And this is digital, but this is money. It's Taurus energy. It's our values. Okay. We think of the earth. Anytime you hear me talking about Uranus, folks, and I say Taurus, think the earth. So we think of, how is the earth doing? How is the planet doing? What can we do for the planet? What kind of decisions? What kind of legislation? What kind of things can we do to deal with the different changes in the weather? Regardless of whatever you want to call it, okay? The hottest summer ever or the coldest winter ever, whatever kind of flooding or weather dilemmas we're dealing with, what can we do? Right? And so, oh, the wire biter. Stop, Taff. Yeah. I always got to watch her. I heard she literally had the wire like she was chomping on it. I saw all her teeth. Well, then you got to stay right here. I'm coming. You've been patient. You've been really good. I'm ending it. She's like, shut up already. So this is beneficial energy. It seems and feels strongly beneficial to me because Uranus is an Earth, okay? Jupiter, right, is an Earth. Juno is an Earth. So news and information, possibly about digital and devices, possibly about business and the stock markets, possibly about the economy in terms of the housing market, but maybe something beneficial because it's very practical energy here. It's like, okay, so what can we do? Like, what do our people need? What do we need? And let's not forget, of course, that we're in an election year. So issues about what we really need, right? Whether it's lower price at the pumps, whether it's lower prices for the food and the commodities, whether it's I need housing, affordable, clean, reliable, safe housing, right? We need food on the table, but we need good food. And how do we get that? We need a healthy planet. We need healthy animals, right? So it's all connected. It's the circle of life. And I love actually that Juno's doing a retrograde in Virgo because I think this Juno is going to be, in the long run, it's going to be that game changer energy because it's the details and it's the minutia. It's the stuff that sometimes we just overlook it. We overlook it. You know how you were growing up and mom always cooked for you? Mom always had your clothing cleaned and folded, right? It's that kind of energy where we just go about our day-to-day routines and we forget until that person's gone. The person that made sure there was always your favorite thing in the refrigerator, your favorite drink, or the person that would go shopping, right? The person, not to mention cooks and cleans for you. Like, that's this Juno and Virgo. It's looking over the details, right? And it's taking a hard look at the money and the finances too. It's training it and it's saying, how can we make this better? So even though we have a lot of disruptive energy, there's a lot of benefits here now. It doesn't feel so jarring, even though we still have Mars. Remember, I talked about Mars at the beginning. So there is still going to be that element of surprise and shocks. But at the same time, the behind the scenes stuff that's not flashy, we got Juno, basically Juno and Jupiter, and Black Moon Lilith, even, who's going to eventually do a retrograde backwards again. There's like this support. There's this grounding support. And it's also being helped by Ceres food in Capricorn. So the government paying attention to the food, right? Paying attention to the companies, paying attention to the prices, paying attention to how it's all getting to the table, right? And Cupido here. So they're together. And hopefully, for wherever you live, there is There is ease during the turbulent times. There is ease during the change and the transition. And just remember, with Mars in Aquarius, we are still saying, step back, count to 10, be the witness of self, be the witness of your own impatient self, be the witness of your own, your lack of understanding and wanting to maybe be a little combative. Just recognize that we are all feeling that way, and that we kind of have to just chill and be the witness of ourselves. And we'll get through this. We'll get through it. We just have to be a little bit more calm and remember to try to stay balanced and use the tools. Virgo, use our tools. Use the tools that help us. Some people are like, okay, I got to start. If I got to smoke a little bit of this, if I got to put a little bit of that oil, that drop of that oil underneath my tongue or on my tongue, or if I need to meditate, or if I need a little sip of this, or, there's just a lot of different things people can do. And I don't advocate substances, because I can't handle any of that stuff. Pisces energy, by the way, substances, just so everybody else understands. Mercury and Pisces, substances, the wine, but other substances of all kinds is Pisces energy, escape energy, right? So if you have to do something, do it in a very healthy, measured way. All right. Do it in a healthy, measured way, and leave the decisions, big decisions, for a time when Mercury is more clear thinking. Okay. And we'll get there. We'll get there. But just know that Mercury, after at least Pisces, goes into Aries, and we're going to have a Mercury retrograding in Aries, and I'm going to have that video up soon for you. Okay. This has been a busy week, but if you look at the chart on a whole and look at just the lines I've drawn, the red is the stress and the tension. The blue is the ease. In the green is also the ease. Okay. Mercury and Venus are very, very prevalent. Jupiter, Mercury, Venus are the ones who are really telling the stories for this month. Even though Mars is a factor, we've got Venus and Mercury and Jupiter talking and communicating, and Juno helping us to be calm and to make sure that we're keeping our eye on the prize, which is our basic necessities, and to understand where our true values really are and what we're going to need going forward. All right. So thank you for your time. If you are still with me, just please know that I greatly appreciate the time that you spend with me. If I can help you in any way, comment to me. Let me know if you got any questions, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care.